So that's live, so I can hit this button. We've got some music going on in the background. Excellent stuff. Right, so obviously in the next 5 minutes, I mean, the reason why we do the 5-minute countdown is slight comparison to the unofficial blogs. The unofficial blog just launched straight into it, and it's very difficult to get a sense of what's going on with... Oh, hang on, that might be me. There we go. Yeah, the unofficial blog just launched straight into theirs, and sometimes you can kind of get a little bit messed around with when they actually get started. So at least this countdown allows us to all gather and say hi. And the YouTube chat room is starting to fill up as well. Hello there, guys. Hello, Andrew English from London. Craig Linders, South Dakota. 42 degrees Fahrenheit. Brr. Well, it's a damn sight colder than that here in England, so be grateful with how it gets it. Good morning from Colorado Springs, Michael P. Do spread the word, guys. Please do let everyone know that we're now live. We've got a lot to talk about, some great chat, and also great guests. We have ourselves a special guest who I'm very much looking forward to talking to. If you do have any questions, of course, to Eric, do let us know. Graham Small, good afternoon. Dan Berry, San Diego is nice today. Do I expect anything less? While we're kind of like on the countdown, I mean, Alyssa, is there anything that you want to advertise on the forum? Perhaps is there anything that you want to spread the word about? Is there any new posts that have gone up?
Actually, there is. We're doing accepting orders for the Friends of CC polo that Michael Leventhal just designed. And we're also accepting orders for the brand new 2017 Friends of CC Forum lanyard that was designed this year too. This year we're going with the theme of the Running Man from the Hotel Apocalypse weight screen. There was that green bar with the little white guy walking. So we'll be using. We used that for the design, and you can go to the front page of the blog, and up on the menu you will see a link to the store, and I believe you'll also see that on the forum too, the forum main menu also. Right now I'm in the process of restarting my computer because it froze up on me. Not the computer we're using, obviously, for the broadcast, but my main computer, which gives me all of the important information that I need so I can actually tell you guys information and say hi to you, which I have not yet done. So
one or two people are asking whether we're going to be talking about Labyrinth. We could, but the thing about Labyrinth is it's a project that's down the line, and therefore I don't think we'll be seeing it San Diego this year. It's like the Judge Dredd announcement that came out of Rebellion 2000 AD this week. That's 2 years down the line, so I don't think we'll be seeing something like that at San Diego. I'm certain that when it does get officially announced, I'd love Rebellion to actually do a panel. I'd love Jim Henson to do a panel, but who knows?
One of the things we did do, and I'll talk about this in more depth in the Weekend in TV segment that we do later on in the show, but we did, Kevin, Doctor Who 42, wrote up a nice bit about the upcoming fall television upfronts. So we'll talk about that later. So hopefully we should be seeing some of them in San Diego. That's the key, is to figure out which of the upfronts will come into either 6 BCF, I think, is probably where a lot of them would come in with their pilot episodes.
Yeah.
And we are.
Right. Yeah, the countdown's done, which means I can stop the screen share. I can turn that off because it'll just eat processing power, and we are live. And at which point I can also plug this in so there's no feedback and we get some decent sound. Excellent stuff. So, hello there. Welcome to Talkin Comic-Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. My name's Leonard Sultana, and each and every week we talk San Diego Comic-Con, comic culture, and all the bits and pieces that surround it and the things that we see at such events. We are, I believe, just over 9 weeks away from San Diego Comic-Con 2017. It's getting closer and closer. People are starting to pack at this point, which is just, well, it's baffling for me because I have a penis. Women, however, they're packing like nobody's business. They're just getting really involved. They're doing printouts and organizing and spreadsheets. Blokes are going, yeah, we got 2 months yet. We're fine. We're okay. No worries. Don't worry about it. Lots to talk about this week because obviously we have a load of stuff when it comes to Comic-Con news. So we're going to talk about that very soon indeed. First and foremost, though, we'll do our introduction to our guests for today. We have my regular partner in crime. We have Alyssa Franks joining us. Hello, Alyssa. How are you?
That just completely baffled me how you generalized half of the world's population. I'm like, what?
Okay.
What?
I may have generalized, but I generalized I did it in a good way because you're organized. You're the ones that make sure that we wipe our backsides and get things done. You're the ones that hold it all together. We're the weak link. We're the weak link around here.
Yeah. Okay. All I'm going to say is thank God there has been nothing major that happened this week. I really appreciate no ticket sales, no NYCC ticket sales, no Funko Friday ticket sales, no ticket sales, no hotels. And you know that actually showed on I think it was like on Wednesday or Thursday we had the amount of people on my website just kind of dropped as everybody just took some time to deal with their own stuff like laundry.
Breathe,
yes.
relax, just yeah. I mean, it has been for the last couple of weeks particularly mental. I mean, admittedly, with the hotel apocalypse, we are still seeing some remnants of that. There are still rooms available, very much out in the, not in the sticks as it were, but they are still there. I mean, you can still get beds for San Diego, but that whole issue with downtown and the wait lists and the extended sales, it got very, very insane for a while. And then of course your badge sales and New York City Comic-Con, it's good for this week to just dial back, although there has still been plenty that's been announced. I appreciate that. What has been talked about on the forum this week?
We're talking about the upfronts for television next fall. They just had a whole big thing in New York City about with the upfronts with a lot of stars there. We're trying to coordinate for Funko Fun Days, the people who were lucky enough to get tickets and the people who are not are trying to be plus ones. Those kinds of.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we could talk about in the show a little bit later about the news of the week, but we can just cover very quickly Funko Fun Days. This is how it went. Tickets are now on sale. Tickets are now sold out. There you go. That's pretty much how it went. So that's we don't need to talk about it anymore. That's pretty much exactly how it went. It sold out instantly. It was remarkable. Okay, so we'll talk about obviously the other headlines in a bit, but thank you very much indeed for joining us, Alyssa. But this is where I now introduce our featured guest for this week, Eric Henson. Hello there, Eric. How are you?
Well, how are you doing? It's an honor to be on. I appreciate it.
The pleasure is all ours. Thank you so much indeed. For those who don't recognize Eric, perhaps you haven't seen Comic-Con A Fan's Hope, which was the documentary that was filmed at San Diego Comic-Con in 2010. And I believe it came out, was it 2011, 2012? Was it the year after?
It came out in 2011 in theaters. I think the DVD hit, I'm not sure what time of year, but it might have hit in 2012.
Yeah, and Eric was one of the featured Now I'm going to say characters, and I'm going to explain why
I am a character, yes.
Yeah. The reason why I say that is because there's definitely a narrative that the director Morgan Sperlock put together for the documentary. Well, first things first, I think we'll talk about how you got involved in the documentary in the first place. How did you hear about getting involved in it?
You know, it was not actually something I went out to pursue that I even heard about. I registered. Look, I was trying to sell my art. I was a terrible, terrible case of trying to be validated and trying to figure out if I had the chops to do it at all. So I joined a website called Comic Art Fans, where, you know, people who don't know any better hire you to do commission art because they think you draw Spider-Man or something. So I got on there, and I think the moderator or the owner of that site, his name is Terry, and he sent out an email that Morgan Sperlock was trying to cast a film about Comic-Con or comic book artists trying to break into the business. So I think what it was, I can't totally remember. I think I clicked on the email, and it basically said, shoot a short video of yourself saying why you want to become a comic book artist and just send it in. So I just sent it in, and next thing you know, I was
going to ask you about that little video. Actually, what was the video like? What did you say?
Oh, thanks for bringing up painful memories. The video was me in United States Air Force uniform, because I was and still am active duty U.S. Air Force, standing there talking about how I'd be willing to give up everything, pints of blood, you know, whatever, my career that I had at the time. You know, I'd give it all up to be able to do comics full time. And only thing I really remember from that video is how cheesy it was and how many times my wife made me reshoot it. I think we probably shot the thing probably 90 times. And she was like, your right hand should be 2 inches lower. You know, she was very precise about it, but without her diligence, I probably wouldn't have gotten selected. So I'm grateful.
See what I'm saying? You see what I said at the beginning? They're the one, they are the glue, man. They hold it together. Absolutely. Cool. Okay, so you sent the video in, and I mean, who contacted you first? Was it direct from Morgan, or was it from the production company?
Well, Morgan called me directly.
Wow.
He called me on the phone, and I was in the store, I think, buying uniform items, and he called me. And at first, I thought it was a prank call, you know, because why would Morgan Sperlock call me? I had nothing to do with McDonald's or Super Size Me, so I thought it had to be a prank of some kind. But it was legit, and he started explaining to me that they wanted to cast me. They looked at other people's portfolios and websites who were unpublished, and they were interested in my story. So immediately I said yes, but of course, being in the Air Force, my yes is not the only yes that matters. So the Air Force's protocol office or public affairs, I can't remember which, had to contact the Hollywood office over there of the Air Force, and they're the guys that approve, you know, people to go on Oprah and stuff like that and wear the uniform. So either they give you their approval and you can wear the uniform and represent the Air Force, or they say no and you have to go it alone and don't mention them. You can still do it. But man, that approval came very quickly, and they were on the base shooting that next Monday.
Wow. So it really was a quick turnaround. I mean, it sounds like it. The whole thing, certainly when you watch the documentary, it sounds like very much you getting swept up in a whirlwind. Because the way that the narrative of the documentary comes across is that you're coming into Comic-Con. I mean, it was your first trip to San Diego,
right?
Your first trip to San Diego Comic-Con, and the narrative is that you're kind of
blown away.
Yeah, you're blown away. I mean, how much was that the case that first year?
You know, I found out about that aspect of it same time you did. You know, we shot over 90 hours of just me, constant interactions, interviews, you know, me going about the day-to-day, me going around the base. And the truth be told, it was kind of overwhelming. I think not from the aspect of, oh, the city is overwhelming and the experience is overwhelming. Keep in mind, at the time, I think I'd been in the Air Force, almost 10 years. So I had seen the world. I've been overseas. I've been to the desert, been in conflict. That wasn't overwhelming for me, seeing large cities, seeing other countries. I was in Germany when the film came out. But what was overwhelming was just that small little piece of having people who do this for a living stare at your art and your art alone, and you're going to crash and burn, or you're going to you know, float to the top. And that was nervous, but that's a nerve-wracking part of any critique session in any forum anywhere. So that part they captured. But you know, like you said, they have a narrative they want to do at the beginning of filming. There's a style guide. They kind of have to tell the stories. You know, I kind of figured there was going to be an artist who makes it and an artist who doesn't. I just didn't know which one I was. So I never knew how they were going to spin it. So there were shots where I'm like looking at big buildings and like, oh, this is amazing. And I'm calling my daughter on the phone. And in reality, I'm walking by the building and I just said, hey, man, that's a big building. And they were like, oh, walk back and say it again. And this time call your daughter. So yes, you kind of do play into the story that they want to tell.
Fair enough. I mean, that was another part of the documentary, which I think a number of people, when you talk about Comic-Con and artists taking their art to the convention, because it's so big and because you have to be kind of like the brightest butterfly in the biggest melee going. How many of those critique sessions did you actually take part in? I mean, how many of the tables, the review tables, did you take part in?
One. I did one.
Really?
I actually was going to sign up to do a bunch of them. I was in line at Disney, and I was just swept away by all the people who were sitting next to me. And I literally, they didn't show those portfolios. Mind-bogglingly good. A lot of the people who had done it, the ladies and gentlemen who were sitting next to me, had done work for Marvel Studios, the movie studios, who had comics that were out there already, just trying to find another publisher, and they were just seasoned and just awesome. I literally just closed my portfolio when I started looking around. But I only did one, and I was kind of scared to do more because I'll just be honest, after I got the one yes, I didn't want to hear what anybody else had to say because it would take me from the mountain down to the valley, and I didn't want to go. So even the producers, like the units that were shooting me, because Morgan obviously didn't shoot every single character, the director who was like, hey, we kind of set up for you to go meet this guy and this guy, or this company and this company. Don't you want to go see them? And I was like, nope, I'm good. Don't want to touch it. I'm great. I don't want to be shown on camera getting told that my art is trash. So I'm good to go with what we got here. I'm just going to walk around and look at cosplayers now.
Fair enough. How long had you been an artist at that point? I mean, you say you've been in the forces for 10 years. Had you been from before that? How long? Have you been?
Well, I've been doing art since I was 5 years old. Not comic book art. I was into fine art. You know, I did photorealism painting, traditional art, printmaking, photography. Every visual art probably I was trained for over 9 years at kind of like a baby Juilliard type school. But I never did comics. No. That I started probably in about 2009 when I was deployed to the desert. And I had a lot of time for reflection, had a lot of time to think. And I actually didn't grow up liking comic books. What sparked the interest is when I was out in the desert, slightly prior to that, my father had passed down to me a collection of comics, and it was, you know, Jim Starlin and Ron Lim, you know, era Silver Surfer from the 80s run. And I started thumbing through them, and basically I got online to see how much could I sell these bad boys for, because I was only interested in what they could do for me and monetarily. And I started thumbing through them, and I was hooked. Well, you know, once you read a good one, you're stuck. So I read it, and I thought, you know, I had no direction. You know, I know someone very, very vaguely, Greg Capullo, artist on Batman and Spawn and The Creech. And just like him, you know, he kind of tells a similar story where, you know, you had, I guess, no direction. Todd McFarlane kind of said the same thing back in the 90s. I knew I could draw, but I had no direction. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it. So when I read that, I realized, look, I don't have enough money to make a movie, and nobody's going to throw a TV show in my lap. But I could produce a movie for the cost of a piece of paper and a pencil. And I could be the director, I could be the actors, I could be the cinematographer, I could do all of it. And it was just a way to tell stories. So I think telling stories is what got me in, but this was the medium that seemed to be the best fit for my particular skill set. And so in the desert, I kind of reflected and got encouraged by one of the guys out there and said, hey, if you want to do it, try it. And that's what I did.
I mean, with the documentary, it's certainly one of the threads is that with yourself and Chip, it's very much about the comic producers and the other artists, the people that knew what they were talking about, saying that you needed to find a voice, and they definitely felt that you had a voice in your art. Was that something that you knew going to San Diego, that you had that in your back pocket, that you had you had a style on the paper? Absolutely not. I think my style was a guy trying to pretend like he knows what he's doing. One compliment that I did get off camera from Ken Lashley, who did look at my work just as a friendly thing to do. And we actually went out to dinner with Ken. He's doing X-Men Gold right now.
Just came off of doing Superman Doomed at DC. He looked at my work and he said, one thing I will tell you is that it's probably one of the better amateur portfolios I've ever seen. And he said, one thing I can say is that you are not trying to be this person or that person. Your style doesn't particularly look like anyone else's. So that was a great compliment to me. Now, he went on to say that I need to work on tons of things and I was terrible in like every other area, but I was grateful for it because he was telling the truth. And so, no, I didn't really know, you know, I just, all I did was I tried to duplicate what I had seen in comics, not by direct copying, but just by principle alone. You know, it's really different from fine art. It's harder to learn how to draw a comic book than it is how to draw a person sitting in front of you. There's so many rules, feathering, you know, how to spot blacks, the interest of camera angle. It's far more similar to becoming a cinematographer or a film director. And so, yeah, I had to teach myself that. And I felt completely lost. But I guess there was a slight spark in me that was enough to carry me through that particular stage of doing what I love. So, I mean, who was it that spotted you at San Diego? That first time, was it? It was a company called Arch Enemy Entertainment. Head up by William Wilson. Tone Rodriguez was a big part of it. He was an artist on The Simpsons for a while. And William Wilson's, he was the one who kind of said yes. And his biggest book at the time, I do believe, was at Image Comics with Tyrese Gibson, the book Mayhem. It was a short miniseries, not something I think is that great, but it was enough to impress me. And it was far more than I had done in comics at the time. So he said yes. He liked the stuff. He had all these projects that were, you know, kind of boiling in his head that he wanted to use me to work on. In the end, it didn't. I did work for them. I did some covers for them. I did 4 covers of a book called The Diplomat, which ended up being released via USA Today online. They have like a comic series they do. So I did the covers for that. And I designed some characters for a series called Big Bad Wolf that eventually did come out via Arch Enemy Entertainment, but none of my designs ended up being in the book because the artist that decided to do the story wanted to do his own designs. And then I did the cover for a book called A51, which is Area 51, which it was actually a novel, not a comic, about this boy who finds a giant robot a la Iron Giant type story. But it was left here by aliens, written by Neil Herndon. So those are kind of the projects I did with them. But in the end, as far as the working relationship that was needed to work with Arch Enemy, I just wasn't ready. At the time, I wasn't ready. It required, you know, I was still in the Air Force, so tons of time needs to be dedicated to that. And well, I just wasn't able. Well, that's a question that's actually coming in on the Q&A. Please, everybody, if you do want a question for Eric, do jump in. Do if there's anything you want to put to him. Michael P asks, how do you balance the Air Force and your comic book work? The answer is sleep deprivation. That is the honest answer. But number one is having a supporting family. Like my wife and children understand that when I come home from work, I'm going to work. And you do have to, so this is what a lot of comic book artists do. And just from my personal experience, they have like a setup in part of the house, or they rent a studio somewhere in town so they can focus and work. However, I approach it a little bit differently. The way I get the work done is I include my family. It to me is very important that I have an environment or a studio that has a couch, a place for them to sit. I don't want to be tucked away in some corner of the house where they never see me. I want them to be, because I do this for them. I don't do this in spite of them. So I want them in the room with me. I constantly bounce things off of them and say, hey, is this terrible? Is this terrible? But the truth be told, there's only so much time in the day. So, you know, you come home from a full day's work, and usually what I do is I dedicate that next few hours while my children are still awake to spending time with them, eating with them. And then after they go to bed and the family kind of goes to sleep is when I sit in the dark and draw crazy pictures. How's you found that your art has evolved since the documentary? I mean, you obviously had those very positive words at San Diego. How did that fold into your art? How did it evolve? You know what it did for me mostly is let me know that I belong. I mean, I initially went there to see, is this for me or not? And what it told me, even though I wasn't ready, that I do have a place. So once I knew I had a place, I started to try to hone it. Of course, I took everything. They didn't show it in the movie, but I had this notebook, this little Batman notebook. And I would write down every critique I was given, every bit of advice I was given, who gave it to me. And I went back home and I tried to apply every single one. great thing happened at the time. I didn't have to kind of re-go through the process and talk to other comic book people. I already had a comic book writer, Todd DeZago, who I kind of befriended online, and Craig Rousseau, who's an artist who's been drawing at Marvel and DC for over 20 years, who I sent an email and said, hey, would you guys look at my stuff? And they said, we can't offer you much, but we can give you a pinup in our book called The Perhapanauts at Image Comics. So I did that, and so immediately I was plugged in, and I got to hear from a great writer, Todd, and a great artist, Craig, who had been doing this for years and years and years, and they poured into me too. So I went home and I applied it immediately to paying work, or to publish work, not necessarily to work that, I was hoping someone would look at and give me a shot. I was very blessed early on to get a shot right away and to be included in that. So I did that stuff. My first real job was doing work at Image. So that was a great thing. So I got to learn mostly from, turning in pages and the writer going, that's terrible, don't do that, or that's great, and keep that up.
Well, if you're going to start small, you start with Image, I suppose. I appreciate that. Let's go back to the documentary and the way that affected how you worked. I'm guessing that certainly when the film came out as well, when people started recognizing your face, did that act almost like a calling card, perhaps, where you could just turn around and say, okay, you want to know about me? There's a DVD. There you go. I'm in this film. This is what I've done. Oh, this is where I am at the moment. Was it like that?
That's a pretty good question. It was actually hilarious. The connection between that movie and my life afterwards. So I'll give you an example. I was in Taco Bell in Stuttgart, Germany, and I'm in Germany, so I'm not thinking that this movie has spread to that that area. So I'm in Taco Bell, and this guy runs up to me and just starts pointing, and he's like, you're that guy from that movie. And so it kept going like that. He's literally freaking out, and I'm just trying to get my family done with their burritos so we can get out of here, and he could stop freaking out. He's scaring my little children. But what that let me know is that people have been seeing it. So immediately after that, I realized my name became that guy. So when I'm at comic conventions, people will walk by my table, and then I'll see them walk by again, and then walk by again, and they're like, I know this guy from some obscure place. Did he die on Doctor Who as a guest character? Like, did he have a crazy shirt in Star Trek and die after one? They don't know where it's from. But so I have a little sign that says, yes, I'm that guy, and it has a picture of the Comic-Con DVD case. And so people come and they point to it. They go, oh, you're that guy. I'm like, yeah, I'm that guy. And so I kind of embraced it that way. So the notoriety, nobody knows my name, which is no different than before the movie, but at least they know something that I was a part of.
What was the experience when the film came out? Because I know that you went to the Hollywood premiere. I've seen a couple of the red carpet interviews. Because I can imagine that was also the first time you kind of met your castmates as well.
Exactly. I had never met Skip. I had never met Holly or Say Young or any of them before during shooting. The closest came, I was at the portfolio review section, and I caught a glimpse of Skip followed by a camera crew, and I'm like, is that the other guy? Is that him? He looks more like an artist than I do. He's got the fedora, he's got tattoos and a beard. I think he's gonna beat me. So immediately I started like all this self-doubt. And so that was the only glimpse I had seen of any of them. And then when I saw the movie for the first time was at the premiere. When I saw them was also the first time at the premiere. So it was all still new for me. Like I said, I was in Europe. So I came to the States just for the premiere and ended up like leaving the next day. So I got a chance to come home, which was rare at the time, and I got a chance to see everybody. So it was crazy. You had cosplayers out there dressed like Princess Leia, and Star Wars folks wanted to take pictures of you for being in the movie. I met Clark Craig, which is great. I got some pictures with him on my Facebook, and other time, after the premiere, he pulled me aside and said, "Hey, you were great." And I'm like, I'm great. You're Agent Coulson. What do you mean I'm great? And then he asked me for my business card. I'm like, I was like, you're asking me for a business card? You could just kick me in the face and take it. You're Agent Coulson. So I got to hang out with him and met a couple of great, a lot of great stars who were there. And hung out with Joss Whedon for a while. Actually, the funny thing about the premiere, we were standing there taking those particular red carpet photos where they have the whole group there. And I was talking to Stan. I thank Stan for all the years of his work and how he changed, kids' lives all over the world There's not a country you can go where somebody doesn't own a pair of Spider-Man pajamas. So he's done a great impact to the world. But I was thanking him, and then I kind of leaned over to Joss and I said, "Hey, Joss, Avengers is gonna be awesome," because it hadn't come out yet. And he leaned next to me and he was like, "I sure hope so." Like, he was so nervous at the time. A lot of people thought it was gonna be so great, but he wasn't amongst those people. I guess the pressure of getting it done so quickly. So afterwards, we talked a little bit. He ended up he's actually the person, when you see the picture online on Facebook of me and Clark Craig, Joss Whedon is the one holding the camera, taking the picture. So instead of asking to take a picture with Joss Whedon, I asked Joss Whedon, "Hey, could you hold my camera and take a picture of this of Clark Craig?" And he was just letting me have it the whole time. He was like, "I can't believe this. Clark, you're terrible. I can't even direct you in a regular photograph. Hold your head up straight. Lift up your shoulders." He was clowning him the whole time, but it was fun.
Cool. With when you saw the documentary, and I can imagine when you went in, you were seeing these people on the red carpet. You saw Skip, and you kind of knew who was in the documentary with you. But then when you watched it and you realized that Morgan's created this structure and this narrative, I can imagine you all kind of huddled together afterwards and went, "Is that how it came across? Is that how we were?" I spoke to them very little. I talked to Skip a little bit about maybe working on something together and kind of using the film as a springboard. Like, here are the two artists from Comic-Con that joined together. It never materialized. Holly was, really busy. We even tried to get together and go out to eat once or twice. It never panned out. So I actually have had very little interaction with all of them, which you wouldn't think, that we band together. I was still, like, I think at the premiere, I was sitting next to Robert Kirkman. Like, I don't even think we sat next to each other. I was sitting Robert Kirkman was in front of me. I think Tommy Davidson from In Living Color was behind me. And I was so enamored with all that, and, Stan Lee coming up and talking. So when it was all said and done, I was glad that the narrative painted me in a positive light, that it seemed like such a success story. I was just a little sad because I was there for the over 90 hours of footage that we shot. And of course, in your mind, and I imagine this goes on in actors' minds, and there's so much left on the cutting room floor that there wouldn't be enough DVDs to show everything. And there were some really great moments with some really good, I sat down with Jim Lee. I sat with Jim Lee and talked to Jim Lee as part of the film, and they didn't put it in there. So I guess a lot of choices had to be made to fit everything in. So yeah, I was a little shocked by how it all came across, but I was still grateful. Like, I saw my face on the big screen, and it was only a third as horrible as I thought it would be. I was going to ask about the reaction, because you were saying, like you say, that your wife did put you in front of that camera for YouTube. Right. When your wife and your daughter saw the film, what was their reaction?
Well, they saw it first on DVD. They didn't go with me to the premiere. Of course, my wife was always supportive of me. So in her mind, it's just everybody else catching up with how awesome she already thinks the art is and what I do is. So she watched it and just, I guess, was just very proud. And my daughter, she was so young at the time. I think she just was like, "Is that Daddy?" So but now as she watches it, she's 12 now. Now as she watches it, she has like a much greater appreciation, because she loves, comic book characters and the whole nine. So she's all into that world. So it gives her a great sense of being a part of it. And my son, I think he was a baby at the time in one of the frames. So he's kind of shocked, like, "Hey, I was on TV." So I think they watch it and think more about the fact that they were in a movie than it is a focus on me. They see me every day.
Yeah. When was the last time you actually saw the documentary?
Probably about half a year ago. I watched it because what I end up doing is, in my normal circles, so a lot of people don't know about it. So if I, after knowing them for like a year, I might mention it. I don't walk up to them like, "Hi, my name's Eric Henson. I was in a movie. You weren't." I don't do that because that's crazy. But when they find out about it, I'll recommend it to them. And I think it's on like Hulu now or iTunes. So I'll say, "Hey, just go give it a watch." And then they'll come back to me after seeing me for like a year and be like, "Can you sign this?" Like, "You ignored me yesterday. Today you want me to sign something." So I think I watched it again just to see what they were seeing, to refresh my memory.
I can imagine also to see how it holds up as well.
Yeah, it holds up. It holds up pretty well. Now I can't look at the art that they showed. Man, most artists are like that. I don't want to see the thing I drew yesterday because it's terrible. You know, I immediately kind of move on to the next piece. I want to be better. So I hate that when the public did get a chance to see what my art looks like, that's what they saw. But you can't go back and worry about that. That's where I was at the time. It brought me to the point where I am now. I'm much more excited about the stuff I'm doing now. But yeah, that's the only part that I look back and go, man, that's a shame.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. Just to quickly mention, I mean, the documentary, certainly for myself, it's almost like an annual thing. We're actually coming up to that point in the year where I will watch it to really kind of ramp up my Comic-Con for the year. So, and I can imagine for a lot of people, it's very much that kind of film. It just kind of gets everyone G'd up for it. Because
I had no idea.
I mean, you've got Michael P. who's saying it really captures the spirit of Comic-Con. KB Warrior, I own that movie. I made all my co-watchers watch it. So you've got, I think it's definitely one of those films. Alyssa, do you have any questions?
I was just going to ask what he was doing these days.
Yeah, that's where I was going myself. Yeah.
Well, what I'm working on right now, well, I'll start off with what I wrapped up. I just wrapped up, I don't know how many of you guys who are listening and watching are familiar with Telos. Back in the early 2000s, Telos was a pretty big hit done by Mike Wieringo, who is no longer with us. But he had a great 12-issue miniseries. It's kind of a science fiction fantasy epic about a little boy who goes into a dream world and is this swashbuckling adventurer with a lot of anthropomorphic characters like a talking tiger and a panther bounty hunter that's after him. So anyway, it was a big hit at Image. It was written by Todd DeZago. He's been writing. I think we were at a con and I was with Todd, and Stan Lee said to Todd, "You've written more issues of the Amazing Spider-Man than I have." So he's a seasoned guy. So he did this with Mike Wieringo, and after Mike's passing, Telos just stopped. That didn't mean there weren't more stories that they wanted to tell together. I think Todd, who took the death hard, they were really good friends, didn't really want to go back and revisit that world, wasn't ready to revisit that world right away. So cut to now, he's ready to tell the stories that Mike never got a chance to. So what he did was he organized a group of the comic book industry's greatest talents, and then me. I don't know how I fit into that, but then this guy is on the tail end of that. So what we did is we illustrated kind of I guess it may be the final chapter of Telos in Mike's honor. And it's all of the proceeds go to the ASPCA. So nobody's keeping a dime for themselves. It's all because Mike was a lover of animals, and we want to honor his memory that way. So the book has tons of people, George Perez, Walt Simonson, Kelly Yates, the illustrator on Doctor Who comics, Joe Stanton, who else? Todd Knock is on it. And then, me. I don't know how that happened. So I did some pages on it, and it's just this big jam. I mean, it's really great. I think it's like over 500 pages. It's 2 volumes. It's huge. It's $50 a volume. You can only get it on their website, which is www.mikewieringotelostribute.com. The first volume, I think, is already sold out. The second volume, which is the one you want anyway, because that's the one I did, part of what I did, is the order deadline, I think, is July the 10th. So you can order it up until July 10th. And the book will ship later this year. But it's going to be a huge collector's item because there's only so many that will be in print. So that's what I just finished working on. What I'm working on currently is my creator-owned book, which is called Eden. And so I've kind of been teasing Eden for a couple of years here and there, kind of just pre-releasing it maybe every now and then, because I've been looking for a publisher. So I've had it kind of self-published for about a year, but I recently signed a deal with Alterna Comics, who is doing big things in the newsprint industry right now. It will be a part of my book, will be a part of their 2018 newsprint lineup, and kind of available at Barnes and Noble, newsstands. They're bringing comics back to newsstands by going back to newsprint like comics used to be, and therefore now you can get readers who don't go to comic book stores and get them on the newsstand. And the whole model is genius because the books come out on the newsstand in such a staggered fashion that if you get a #1 in February, because the books come out every 2 months in comic shops. So if you get a book in February on the newsstand, issue #1, #2 will be available in March in the comic book store, and then the next month on the newsstand. So what it does is get readers to, oh, look, I picked this up at Barnes & Noble. This is awesome. I want to go get issue number 2. I don't want to wait another month. All I got to do is go to a comic book store. That brings people back to the brick and mortar comic book stores, pulls them in from a place they normally wouldn't come from. So Eden's going to be a part of that. And so that's a fun book. Issue number 1's been out for a little while. The last copies of number 1 that are under the previous banner, which is Artist Alley Comics, are still available on my website, ericHensonart.com. And when those are gone because the new publisher kind of has exclusive rights to distribute the book. So you'll have to wait until 2018 for issues 1 through 4, which is the whole mini series to come out. But I'm working on the last issue now. It's fantastic science fiction, crazy alien killing fun.
It sounds like everything's just evolving in terms of what you're doing, which is fantastic. Sorry, Alyssa, do you know the question?
How much are the newsprint comics going to be? Because
I think they're all $1.50 and below.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, they're dirt cheap.
Yeah, and I was shocked. They're doing pretty well. I wasn't shocked, but I was surprised that people would grasp back onto it so soon, because we're so used to that glossy paper that makes comics almost kind of self-implode because of the production costs.
Exactly. That's what I was wondering about, whether or not the cost had been brought down to the point where a kid could buy a comic without spending, $3 and $4 at a time. So,
absolutely.
Are you going to be going? Are you going to be at San Diego this year?
I have not been back to San Diego since the film, and I would love to. I really haven't been back, and the only reason I haven't been back is sheerly it's expensive. It's an expensive thing to do. I haven't been asked back as far as like doing a panel. I've done panels about San Diego Comic-Con at tons of other Comic-Cons. I've been a guest at Baltimore Comic-Con, Heroes Con in Charlotte, North Carolina. Like, they've had me on. I've done panels here in Oklahoma City at Wizard World about it. But San Diego itself has not necessarily said, hey, come on back and be a part of it. So at the time when I could have probably gone the very next year, like I said, I was in Europe. It was crazy expensive to fly back and forth. I'm sure you know the pain of going back and forth and back and forth. And then I want to take my family, and there's 5 of us. So it's a pretty substantial thing to do. So I have it like on my bucket list, like to go back to San Diego. But when I go back, I don't want to go back as a spectator. I don't want to go back with 1 issue of something. I want to go back with enough work, enough stuff to show people, to say, hey, this is what happened from me coming here. So I'm kind of just waiting for the right time to go back. But no, I don't plan on being there this year unless I get a phone call like tomorrow. I'll try to make it happen.
Too late for 2017, obviously, but I'm copywriting this right now. I'm going to be submitting for a reunion panel.
Oh wow!
2018. Come on, people. Let's get this.
I will be there. I will do it.
Fantastic. Right, we've got, Graham Small was saying, what a great artist, great guest is Eric showing his art, so we've answered that question. And we've also got the question about what are you currently working on. Where's the best place for people to find stuff for yourself? I mean, do you have a website? Have you kind of weaponized what you do as an artist?
I have. I'm proud to say that if you Google Eric Henson, it's probably the first 3 pages is just me, which took a few years and a lot of artwork. But yeah, you can go to my website. It's erichensonart.com. You can go there. I'm on Facebook. My comic book is on Facebook. Eden is the name of it. I'm on Twitter. My comic book is on Twitter. I'm on, I just still blog. I don't know how many people actually still type and blog. I do it. It's a habit. Sorry, don't apologize for it, I guess. And I'll put stuff on there occasionally. But yeah, you can, everything is linked to everything. And I even have a YouTube channel now, which came out like last year. And on it, I do drawing tutorials. So I'll pick a character, or I'll let the audience pick a character, and I'll sit there 40 minutes and take it from a blank piece of paper to a finished sketch, and let people join in that way, and even get a chance at getting the art after it's drawn, so they can have it at home. But yeah, you can find me anywhere. Just Google Eric Henson if you're bored one Saturday, any day of the week.
Well, yeah, Andre White's just gone. That's just what I've done. I've Googled you and I've seen great stuff. So
yeah,
there we go. Excellent. I'm really surprised that you haven't actually caught up with the other cast members. I mean, do you message on occasion? Do you try to?
I've gotten a message from Holly, years ago where she was kind of saying, good job on some of the stuff you're posting. And like I said, I talked to Skip, you know, in person once or twice, but honestly, no. I'm kind of bad about that sort of thing. I've actually, you know, I kind of use the time to network more with some of the industry professionals who I kind of already looked up to when this all started. And some of those interactions are just so enchanting and so amazing. I haven't, you know, we haven't had a reunion of sorts. And I think part of that is just the way shooting was. You know, a lot of films you're forced to be in scenes together. We never interacted. So it wasn't like it was something odd, like we broke up and we don't talk. We never actually met, really. I
think also maybe it's a case of if you did, you're kind of looking back at what you were back in 2010, and you're definitely, from talking to you, you're someone who's looking to expand and evolve and continue with what you're doing, and I find that highly, inspiring.
I'm glad.
Cool.
I can go to bed tonight knowing I did something.
Excellent stuff. Also. Cool. Well, listen, I want to say thank you very much indeed for coming on today. I really hope that more people find out about what you're doing now. So any way that we can help with spreading that word, with just any way that we can help. Yeah, thank you so much indeed for coming on and talking about your time on the documentary. And yes, it's inspired me that I will be watching it this week. So I might
watch it too. I'll join you.
So there you go. So yeah, you and I will have to do a live tweet of the thing at some point. That'd be rather cool. Excellent stuff. Any last comments, Alyssa?
I'll be looking for Eden. That sounds like a fun comic, and I really am appreciative of trying to lower the cost down to comics so people can actually buy them and not, being a comic collector and not collect them, just actually buy comics to read, which I'm looking forward to.
Awesome. I'm looking forward. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you love it. And when the movie comes out, be first in line, buy a ticket.
Okay, I'm looking for trade paperbacks, so that's what I want. When's the first?
It will come out in the trade also.
Okay.
It should be a 2018 as well, and that will be on the glossy paper though. That'll be on the more expensive stuff.
Where can people find out about Eden? Does it have its own Twitter, or do you sell? I know
Eden does have its own Twitter. It's at Eden Comics, COMIX. Is where you can get on there. I just started the Twitter page, so it's like 30 followers on there. So get on there, pile on there. And what I'll do is, once I reach a certain number of followers, if you keep piling it on, tell your friends, I'll start releasing like exclusive peeks into the book. And I might do videos, me showing the artwork ahead of time. But, this is kind of what it looks like. It's a science fiction superhero mashup of aliens and the main female lead, a strong female lead, not looking to get rescued, but rescuing everybody else. So if you like, books that are
a woman of color, which I admire as well. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. If you have the time, I'll tell you real quick. The reason that came about is not because I was like, we need more brown people. Of course, I feel the sentiment that yes, we need to represent every group. But what happened is we had 2 children. Obviously, the film alluded to that. My wife and I. We weren't going to have another. We weren't planning on having another. So what we did was we said, if we did have another child, what would she be like? So we started to flesh out, well, she'd be strong, she'd be like this, and so we were like, you know what, we're not going to birth her in real life. So let's birth her in a comic, and let's make a comic. Let's have our third baby as a comic book character. And we did that. And we made her the lead of this crazy science fiction world where she's trying to find her missing son. But what's funny about the book is that after the issue 1 was done, we found out that she was pregnant with our 3rd child, a girl, and we gave her the same name as the character in the book. So
her name fantastic.
Naraya. So she has a character based off of her already. So now my other kids are jealous.
I'm filling up here. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Brilliant stuff. We'll definitely pay it. I mean, I can't add my name to the Eden Comics account because I already am. I'm already following. But you've got 36 followers now. So any way we can keep adding to that number, fantastic. Oh,
actually 38 because I just joined too.
Oh, awesome. Cool. See, I just started it and I haven't been promoted that much. So I'll add some stuff on there tonight just for you guys joining on there.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Well, let's get it up to Facebook numbers. I think I got like 2,000 some people on Facebook. I'm just, because I started that account much earlier. So now I'm just trying to bring everybody over.
Excellent. Listen, Eric, thank you very much indeed for your time. I really appreciate you coming on. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you in San Diego again at some point, either on your own panel for Eden, on a reunion panel, whatever. We'd love to see you.
Or just walking around. I'll be there.
Or just see you walking around. Eric, thank you very much indeed, man.
All right. Thank you. Y'all have a great day.
You too.
You too.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent stuff. So there you go. That was Eric Henson. Do check him out on his social media and his Twitters and all that stuff. Lots of people jumping in. Wow, nice, great guest. A great cause as well. Yes, absolutely. His the stuff that he was doing for the charity, that was fantastic. Excellent stuff.
He spoke well. He's it seems like he's used to being behind a table, so he's able to talk and about his stuff, and it's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to Eden, and I think it's brilliant to, as I've said before, just to have a newspaper comic back in the mix. That's great. That's really great. So speaking of,
I'm not too sure. No, I'm not too sure about the content, the comment here. Andre, Michael P. You need to Leonard. You need to host the panel of those people who were in the film. You know what? Okay, I'm going to submit next year. Sod it. Let's let this happen. Okay, that's cool. Right. So let's talk about this week in Comic-Con news. Almost. Let's talk about Wednesday. This is going to be an incredibly short section. We talked about it before in our intro, but yes. Funko Fun Days that announced what they were getting up to in terms of the timings for the show. They updated all their details on their blog, and of course, they posted for the tickets.
One of the interesting things about Fun Days is that they've changed it up a little bit this year, so that there's no holding seats for people. All of the people who are at your table need to arrive at the same time. So apparently that's a neat thing. I like what they're doing. That way there's less shuffling happening during the actual seating process. I think they're constantly trying to refine it and to make it less of a pit fest that it was, Nasha pit fest as it was a couple of years ago, which is a great thing. One of the things that I was interested in, unless do you have anything to add about Funko Fun Days?
No, I mean, I think it really was. I mean, I'm hoping that it is going to be very much like you have been describing that the last couple of years, or certainly 2-3 years ago, it was very much the melee. It was very much a kind of very much a bit of a tough room to be in, because it was very much chaotic. But I understand it's a little bit more organized this year. So yeah, I'm hoping that that's going to be the case.
Well, last year was organized. I mean, they gave out tickets, and every table won something, and it seemed like everybody, granted there were raffles, and one of our good friends, Mario Wario, got the golden ticket and was able to do a tour of the Funko facility when he was at ECC earlier this spring, which was wonderful. But so I don't think you're going to see a return to the days of when toys were just thrown like they were in the past. I think it's going to be a lot more controlled, and which is evidenced by them wanting to put the tables, having all of the groups of people arrive at the same time.
Sure.
Chris Hardwick.
Well, yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to dial up now. It's not so much the dialing up; it's more the actual. I just want to make sure I get the timing right, because yes, Chris put a Facebook Live together on this was on Friday evening UK. It was kind of Friday afternoon for the US. Very much tying into the rest of the news regarding offsites and what you can expect at Comic-Con. Obviously, we've had the blow that Nerd HQ won't be joining us, although that has now evolved into Sci-Fi. We do, however, so we've got this video that happened. I'm going to try to do a screen share, and I don't think I'll get told off because at the end of the day it's video, but hopefully we have some audio as well. So this was Chris Hardwick's announcement regarding his participation in Comic-Con 2017. Oopsie daisy.
No volume.
No volume. Oh, you can't hear it? Okay.
We are not doing an artist podcast live at the Balboa, and I'm not doing stand-up at the Balboa. We're breaking tradition this year. It just started to get to be too much. My days were like 15 hours long. I was moderating like 10 to 13 panels, and which was fun, but it's also stressful because you don't want to fuck up the panels.
Chris, so you're gonna have to watch the language.
Marvel and Star Wars, and booking the podcast for SDCC, I would get chest pains because no one knows that when you're trying to book people, no one really confirms who's even going to Comic-Con until like 2 weeks before. So we would announce like, hey, we're doing a podcast at San Diego Comic-Con, and people's first question is, who's the guest? Who the guest is. And so we just never knew until the last couple of weeks. And there were a couple of years where I was like, oh, we're just fucking not going to have a guest this year. And then it always at the last minute worked out. But yeah, it was very stressful. So, but you can see Mystery Science Theater. I think they're doing Mystery Science Theater at the Balboa for a couple shows there.
Indeed. So, well, let's turn that off. And yeah, he's absolutely right. Let's put that off. So let's just very quickly recap then. It was a stressful thing for him to do. If anyone, I mean, just to give you an idea, my other half was running through downtown after Hall H, because she was going up to go and see the screening of the X-Men film, at which point she got run into by Chris Hardwick on the way. That was at speed. So there's more a case of there's just so many hours in the day. So you can understand why Chris has decided to dial back on Comic-Con. However, like he says, it's not going to be the only representation of Nerdist at San Diego this year. You do have the Mystery Science Theater 3000 that's going to be taking over Balboa in the Nerdist podcast place. It's going to be, I believe, the Friday and Saturday, which you're looking at, and it's at 9 o'clock showings. It's actually going to be 2 separate shows, which I find fascinating. You've got a classic film which has already been shown on the show, which was Egar from 1962. That's going to be on the Friday. It's going to be a secret surprise film. As far as I'm aware, I mean, the tickets went on sale on Friday on what the seats are like and how many are left. Has anyone checked in yet?
I have not.
Tell you what, then let me just see what they say, because I do have the links on my site, and I'm just going to go quickly to the pages. As far as I'm aware, I mean, the Nerdist podcast sold out, so I'm going to go to individual seats and see what's left. Well, according to the site, to Ticketmaster, certainly the available. I'm guessing the Saturday will be the same. So if it's something that you are interested in, I actually turned around and said on the site that many people in the UK won't know what Mystery Science Theatre was, because I don't feel it made the transition to the UK, but it did apparently make some late night screenings. But obviously in the States, you've got, so yeah, if you are a Mystery Science Theatre fan, those are up for grabs, and Jonah Ray will be on hand. I have messaged Felicia Day and Patton Oswalt to find out, because they aren't going to be in town, but the question is whether they're going to be actually on the show, because they appear in the new edition, the Netflix edition of Mystery Science Theater. I have tried to find out if they are going to be actually there, or if it's going to be kind of like a video drop-in, you know, kind of like a, you know, something on the screen as the people messing around with Jonah Ray. So who knows? But it looks like fun. I mean, is that something that tickles you, perhaps?
I am going to hold off on doing anything like that. All of the times when I've committed to evening entertainment and spent money on them, there's always been something else that I've wanted to do a little bit more that was free. And so I'm even regretting almost having bought a ticket for HopCon. Regardless.
But that's free. That's free food and this beer samples. You can't knock that.
No, I'm not saying I'm not interested in going. I'm just saying maybe I would have liked to have done something else. But I am looking forward to the Eisners on Friday, and so I don't want to book anything on Friday.
You're not doing Funko Friday this year?
I'm not doing Funko Friday this year.
Oh man. Okay. Well, that was a question that was a question that came up on the chat room. So yeah. Let's have a look, because we have one or two people who have been turned around and said, Super Cat Chick, let's go through the questions. Does anyone know how the waitlist for Fun Days works? Is there a refund deadline, or will they keep refunding and reselling tickets up to the event? As far as I'm aware, and if it's anything like last year, the waitlist reopens, or the emails start going out, I believe, as of tomorrow. They get the weekend out of the way, and then they kind of roll out the waitlist. Many. I wouldn't hold off. Don't count on the wait list. That's all I can say. Andre White, I'm going to get it. Oh, go on.
I also got the feeling with the wait list that it wasn't necessarily about the order on the wait list, that it was a little bit more of going through who's interested in going, and you know, if they know you or recognize your handle, you've got a better chance. That was my feeling.
Yeah. KV Warrior, I get to go to Fun Days for the first time this year. Excellent stuff. Bravo. Andre White, I'm going to get a ticket somehow. Right. If you see a guy wandering around with a shiv, back up, give him some room. That may be Andre, who's up for a ticket. So the Mac Phantom, sorry. So sad about no Nerdist panel this year. It did seem, I mean, this has kind of been part of the conversation this week about offsites, because of the way that everything's changing. People have felt the sky is falling down. I'm actually okay with it. It's new blood. It's something new happening. I'm okay with it. We do have Michael P's turn around and saying, is Nerd HQ being sold to Sci-Fi? As far as I'm aware, that is not the case. Nerd HQ is still remaining a separate entity. His production partner is involved in, they're both the executive producer of Live from Sci-Fi. So I can imagine Sci-Fi are just going to be doing their damnedest to get some of that nerd cred, or the Nerd HQ cred. And of course, you've got all of Zach's friends. So yeah, I can imagine it's going to be very much a mashup of the two. Although, at the end of the day, the Live from Sci-Fi last year was on the roof of the Marriott Marquis. And we all remember how bloody hot it was last year. It was very, very hot.
But this year they're having it 3 hours later, so it should be it's airing. It should be airing, I think, at 8 p.m. It's starting at 8 p.m. airing on the East Coast at 11. So
is it it is going to be live then? I thought it was pre-recorded.
I'm not sure, you know, how they're going to go about it. But we have heard that it is going to be better than it was last year with shade seats, and liquids. You know, we're all kind of the top three things that people needed to stay there. When I saw a little bit of it, I was surprised at how many people were not there. So they have to actually bring people in. They can't just tape them in, bring them in on a screen. So anyway, that's, yeah.
I'm guaranteeing that's not going to be good enough for Zach Levi. That is, I think you're going to get the mashup. I can imagine that if there are tickets sold, that money is going to go to Operation Smile. You're going to get similar numbers, perhaps, so 200-300 people. I can imagine it's just going to be a mashup of the two concepts with sci-fi branding all over it. So, yeah.
Well, it's interesting that both Zach and Chris have declined to do their normal shows, and it seems as though that they're kind of focusing more on the business aspect of it.
Marvel in Hall H. Instead of running around like a blue-ass fly like he did last year and getting late to his own podcast, he can now take his time and do Marvel in Hall H. Just saying. Corgi Commander, I hope they have the DuckTales Scrooge McDuck money bin swim at Comic-Con. Yes, I've seen this thing. This looks like fun. Yeah, this is all off the back as well of the D23 announcements that took place this week. A number of shows that are going to be represented at panels, including Descendants 2. You've also got DuckTales that are representing. No David Tennant is confirmed as attending, but people are asking if he's going to be possibly at Comic-Con for possibly the DuckTales representing at San Diego. Who knows? Well, then again, we've also got Andrew Dickinson who's saying that Min-Manuel is also appearing in DuckTales and hoping that he turns up at either D23 or Comic-Con. That'd be rather cool.
That would be a blast. I would love it.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Absolutely love to see him.
Yeah. Supercat Chick, Mystery Science Theatre is coming to my city in August, so I opted to see them here instead so I can keep my nights open until Comic-Con. You know what? That makes sense. Andrew Dickinson, there are events on after Mystery Science Theatre at the Balboa. Yes, there is. It's the Adventure Zone podcast, which is going to be live. What was that, Alyssa?
Nothing.
Sorry, I thought you were not. I thought you were indicating. Yeah, the Adventure Zone podcast is going to be, as far as I'm aware, the Mystery Science Theatre is on from. I want to get this right. 8 while 10, and then at 11 o'clock you've got the Adventure Zone podcast, which, by the way, has sold out. If it hasn't, there's like maybe 1 or 2 tickets left, and I don't think there are. I think that thing's gone, which is odd because I've never bloody heard of it. So hey, what the hell? Yeah, that's gone. But there are the podcasts. I believe that's on the Saturday. Funko is giving away 2 tickets to Fun Days, absolutely. But you have to jump through some hoops. You have to basically message them, or on the blog you have to tweet them about something extreme that you would do to get these 2 tickets to Fun Days. Okay. Set yourself on fire by all means. But that seems to be the kind of level of fanaticism that you have to do to get these tickets. Let's have a look. Corgi Commander about the changes to the offsite. I like it. It's keeping our veterans, us Comic-Con veterans, on our toes. We're getting complacent with the Comic-Con formula. There you go. He gets it. No, he gets it. He gets it. Andrew Dickinson is quite right, and he's very much the Nerd HQ fan. He was actually, that was one of the prime reasons why he was going to San Diego this year. He's saying that the Children's Museum is still booked. It's blocked out. It was blocked out for Nerd HQ. Nerd HQ no longer isn't doing it, so they may still be doing something at the Children's Museum. It just won't be the panels. Who knows? But at the end of the day, Zach Levi said there's going to be no Nerd HQ. So what are they doing at the Children's Museum? Who knows? And the Mac Phantom, I did Marvel Hall H and Nerdist podcast right after. It was quite indeed the insane rush trying to get from Hall H to Balboa. Yeah, absolutely. Corgi Commander corrected me on the other item that is appearing at D23, which is Tangled 2 with Zach Levi and Mandy Moore. So yeah, both are confirmed as appearing on stage in Anaheim. So there we go. Andre White, I have a great idea. Come on then. Or is this for the? Or is this a Funko Fun Days? Who knows? Okay. If anything, if there's any other off-site stuff that you want to talk about, jump in on the chat room. We'll weigh in on that. We'll move on now, though, to the exclusives. that have been announced this week. Admittedly, the vast majority of them were announced last week, which we did cover, which were from Diamond Comics. These were the Batman Beyond Batman Resin Bust, the Terry variant, the Harley Quinn Boombox, the Forbidden Planet Robbie the Robot, the 2 Ghostbusters figures, the Slimer and the Stay Puft figure, the JLA animated series Flash Resin Bust, and the Speed Force Edition Resin Bust, Deadpool and Superior Iron Man. You also had a Funko Pop that was announced, which I think was the big news of that particular bunch, which was the Megazord figure. But you also had Dark Tower monster figure and the Iron Giant variant. But let me just see if I can find. These were the announcements for this week. These were adding 2. Well, there were two bunch. Let's actually dial them up so you can actually see them. These are figures which are Marvel Legends, which are very, very nice. These are the there's several. There's Daredevil, first and foremost. Let me just see if I can dial up some details as well, because I do have my the site up and running with the exclusives archive at the moment, so I'm just pulling up the directory. But this was the Daredevil Deluxe figure that was announced at the beginning of the week, fully articulate, including interchangeable arms, head, basically battle damage, which is very, very nice, including this as well, which is gorgeous, which is the artwork, which has actually been done by Joe Quesada, also in Braille in the back as well. And it just looks very, very nice indeed. This is coming from Hasbro to join the Black Series Star Wars Admiral Thrawn and also the Land Speeder as well. This was announced, like I said, I believe at the beginning of the week, and yeah, it's going to clock in at $59.99. No word yet on how many there's going to be available, but that is the piece that is currently available or is announced by Hasbro. However, the end of the week, we also had announced this, which is very pretty. This is the 5-pack Mighty Thor, which is available or will be available at San Diego Comic-Con. This is $99.99. You get 5 deluxe articulated figures, including Bor, Ulick, Malekith, Jane Foster Thor, and Odin's son. So it's very much geared towards the recent run of the Mighty Thor. Individual accessories, as you can see, and a foldable presentation box, which once you take the figures, there's the you also get a poem that's on the back of the box, and it all folds together into that, which is very impressive. So yeah, it's very, very nice. It was announced via Nerdist.com, and you've got artist work there by Tyler Jacobson, and yeah, $100 worth of very, very nice figures. Let's just see. Oh no, that's the general form. So there you go. Just to go back to have a look. I think they're gorgeous. I think that's really, really nice.
I can see why a lot of people are very interested in that.
Yeah, I can understand. I really can. It's very pretty indeed. So there you go. Those were the announcements. Obviously, we will keep an eye on further exclusives. So as always, if you do hear of anything, do either let friends of CCI know or let myself know as well, so we can put them in the directory. So there we go. Is that something that tickles you on the Q&A? We've got ourselves, no, well, no one's jumping in on that. Everyone's actually still talking about all the offsites, and also talking about laptops not banned on flights announced this week as well. Yay! Bonus. Hey, listen, that nearly freaked the hell out of me because,
oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm doing flights on the cheap, and the last thing I need is to deal with some very bad entertainment.
Yeah.
So no.
Totally. Another thing that happened this week is we got a drop, unless there's more exclusives to talk about.
At the moment, no. I think that's pretty much what we've got.
We did get a new trailer this week for Star Trek Discovery. I have to bring that up.
Well, we got two actually. We got the US one that was released on Movie Crush, and we also got a UK version because it's getting released here in the UK on UK Netflix. Yay! Good. No illegal downloading of Star Trek for me.
I was impressed. I have to say, I'm given everything that's happened with the Star Trek Discovery and all of that, I was impressed with the trailer. It had a very almost Star Wars look about it. Dare I combine Star Trek and Star Wars? Oh no! But I am going to give it a shot. And now I don't. The problem is that it's on CBS All Access. So, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. The question is whether or not we're going to see that at San Diego, whether or not we'll see a panel for it.
Yeah. Well, I do believe that. I absolutely believe we're going to get a panel. I also think we're going to get a panel for the Orville, because there were a couple of trailers that came out this week. Number one was, like you say, Star Trek Discovery. The other one was from this is the Orville, which is just looks really, really cool.
Galaxy Quest meets Star Trek. Yes. Absolutely, as a weekly series. Absolutely. Even the uniforms. That should be fun. I'm not as sure that's people are going to like that one, but it could.
To be honest, I think it will work as long as they don't. It's Seth MacFarlane at the end of the day. As long as he keeps it more Galaxy Quest than American Dad. As long as he doesn't go too insane and too vulgar and keeps it really kind of family orientated, I think it would work really well, like a galaxy, an ongoing Galaxy Quest. I think that'd be really cool. And not only that, but I'm liking the fact that it's directed by Jon Favreau. It looks incredible. I'm kind of hoping, because that was the fine line that Galaxy Quest, kind of the tightrope was, where it almost became too good in the way it looked. You wanted it to keep very much you wanted to keep it with the actors and the kind of, they based it on the show that they'd seen. So, rickety chairs and all that stuff. But no, I'm curious to see how that pans out. The other one as well, which I really am desperately hoping that there's a panel for, is the new Dark Crystal series, which got announced by the Jim Henson company. The trailer very much ties in with Jim's idea originally for the Dark Crystal, about his concept for the series, for the film, sorry. Remember, this is a film that got very much derided and died a death in the cinema. It was the strongest passion project for Jim Henson, and it pretty much damn near killed him, the reaction that it got. But it's grown into this thing that people love and adore, including myself. I'm a massive fan of the Brian Froud designs. I'm desperately hoping that we're going to get something for this series at Comic-Con this year. That would be the thing to find me at. There you go. That would be the one you can guarantee. That's where I will be. That panel.
Not at the Black Lightning show, the new show on CW, Black Lightning.
I've seen Luke Cage. I don't need to see it again.
Yeah, but
frankly,
Luke Cage, that's on Amazon. I mean, that was on Netflix. Sorry. This is on the CW. Keep in mind, Flash, Supergirl, Arrow. I happened to binge, I think, the last half of the season of Arrow yesterday. So this is CW here. So it will be interesting to see how they treat Black Lightning. There's a few other shows that we may see at San Diego. The Gifted, who basically have a couple of mutant children, and they have to go on the run from the government. That looked fun. Reverie, which we haven't seen a trailer for it yet. Former hostage negotiator is trying to save people who have lost themselves in VR, a VR world. So that kind of thing. There's also The Crossing, which is an interesting twist on the a post-apocalyptic world, America, where this couple is accepted. It goes and seeks refuge from their war-torn country in this small fishing village. Well, the war-torn country is America. So that, just, those little kind of twists, which are fun. We'll see how people will do it. There's also Deception and The Gospel of Kevin coming out too. All of these things look like they could be really, really good. And it's interesting that we have so many good TV shows coming out.
Well, that's all off the back of the echo there.
I'm sorry?
I got an echo.
Oh.
Okay. I'm getting an echo from somewhere. Yeah, the one thing that I think is that's off the back of the upfronts, the upfront, sorry, and also the massive amount of cancellations we got over the last week and a half. It just means that we've got all this new content coming forward, and at the end of the day, they're going to want to get an audience, and that's where they're going to have to bring it to Comic-Con. Mm-hmm. They have to get this groundswell. I mean, you had with The Handmaid's Tale really kind of pushing at conventions. You had you've had all the major hits from the last 12 months are off the back of people's groundswell of interest at conventions. So yeah, I'm curious.
A lot of these seem like they're prime 6 BCF material for the first pilot. So if you don't have anything to do, you may want to, and you see any of these shows on the schedule, you may want to jump in and, just take a seat, take a view and see what you think of them. Yeah.
Graham Small, with how shows looked and how we felt that they had the impact. We thought that last year with the shows. Good point. He's not wrong. We've got Andrew English. Gifted sounds like heroes. No, I see where you're coming from with that. At the end of the day, though, it does tie in with the X-Men universe. So it is an X-Men story. So we've got a little bit more about that. Not nerdy. This is Angela Copley. Not nerdy, but I'm looking forward to Life Sentence, mainly because of Bill Lawrence, who's behind Scrubs. Okay, we'll keep our eyes open for that. At the end of the day, it is a pop culture show now, so it's not just the strictly nerdy stuff. So no, that's a show that may represent at Comic-Con. I think a lot of people are really paying attention to Netflix and seeing what they do in terms of whether they're going to be bringing in anything. I guarantee if they did bring anything to Comic-Con, they'd be getting a damn sight better reception than they're getting in France right now. Because, oh my word. Yes, Netflix are on a PR mission, I guarantee at this point. But then again, having a presentation where they have Adam Sandler show up. Talk about shooting yourself in the foot. Good grief. Okay, so there we go. Okay, I think that's pretty much everything in terms of the news. We've got Andrew English who's turning around saying there are some 7-inch DC Comics bombshells, the Golden Goddess series. We will have a look into that, and I will post something on the site as soon as I find it. Thank you very much indeed for spreading the word. Once again, if you know of any exclusives, any offsites, if you see anything, let me know, and we'll make sure that we spread the word the best we can. And of course, we'll do our best to spread the word with the unofficial blog with their show on a Wednesday night as well. Anything that you want to talk about in terms of week of television, Alyssa?
Yes. We have. We continue with finals. For the first thing, of course, the first thing though is that 12 Monkeys, Sci-Fi Channel is doing an interesting thing with 12 Monkeys. I mentioned it last week. Tonight, we're in the middle of it. Tonight is the last 3 episodes of season 3. The first 4 episodes, in my opinion, were brilliant. And I also think that presenting it this way allows people to really get into it. So that's 12 Monkeys is ending tonight. We've also, this week, we also see the last of Into the Badlands, Madam Secretary, Elementary, Supergirl, The Flash, Empire, Bull, Arrow, The 100, and Archer. So shows, all of the regular shows, 22 episodes are winding up for the next, for the summer shows that are coming out. American Ninja Warrior is happening, which is going to have star competitors. Have you, as Leonard is doing funny things on the other end. Stephen Amell is going to be one of their competitors. So I'm going to watch it.
Is that it? Is he a competitor, or is he actually a host?
I thought it was a competitor.
Oh my word! I mean, admittedly, I've seen some of the behind-the-scenes stuff he does for the Flash, for Arrow, sorry. Yeah. And yeah, the man's got guns. Yeah. Yes. But okay, I'm curious. That will be a interesting episode of that show to watch.
I enjoy American Ninja Warrior because it brings the superhero out in all of us. So I'm looking forward to seeing it, and plus seeing the celebrity edition would be absolutely fun, because I got to admit, sometimes it's nice to see these people just kind of fall into a pit of water. So I'm looking forward to that one.
Andrew, very quickly, Andrew Dickinson saying the promo is online and it's for Red Nose Days. So it is a celebrity edition, or at least his appearance is for Red Nose Days. That's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be fun. I've set my DVR up for it, my TiVo up for it. The other thing that's happening, and I've seen a couple of promos for Netflix's Brad Pitt movie called War Machine.
Yeah, I'm not actually I'm not up for this show because of Brad Pitt. I'm up for it for the actual surrounding cast. The cast is incredible for this thing. No, I'm up for this show. I'm up for this.
Yeah, it looks good. I love the the character of Brad Pitt, just blustering through everything, and G.I. Joe and all of that, being able to fix anything with the question is whether or not his hubris gets to him. Anyway, the next thing and the last thing this week, save the best for last, is Twin Peaks. We get to see the return of Twin Peaks on Showtime. I think this is happening, I believe it's tonight, actually.
It is indeed. We've got Crazy Cat Chick is turning around and saying Super Cat Chick, sorry, she is freaking out about this. She is very much up for this thing.
I wish it was on a channel that I actually subscribe to. So I know nothing about it. I haven't seen it. David Lynch, 18-part limited event series will pick up 25 years later.
Is it coming out weekly? Is it a weekly series?
I believe so. It's a 2-hour series, premiere tonight, with 18 parts. So I'm not sure how far, if they'll take a break in the middle for certain seasons, or for certain events happening. But it certainly looks as though it's going to be an 18 episode series. So
yeah. Angela Copley, there was a Twin Peaks activation at South by Southwest, maybe one at Comic-Con. It's possible, but I can imagine by that point it will either have stuck the landing or be moving on. If you aren't watching it by July, then I don't see how it would be in their best interest to then advertise it at Comic-Con. I think it may be a bit late on that one. Graham Small is talking about Handmaid's Tale. Very uncomfortable watch, but riveting. He's also asking, we've got Corgi Commander who's asking, how is everybody liking American Gods? Graham Small, I gave up on American Gods after episode 2. I've yet to watch episode 2. That's kind of my job for myself tomorrow. I'm going to do a bit of a catch up, because like I say, the first episode I found a tad too dense. It was being too clever for its own good. So I do want to. I want to watch it again. But then again, you could say that a lot about a lot of Neil Gaiman stuff, frankly. So no, I'm curious.
Absolutely.
But, yeah.
That, I mean, American Gods is one of those shows that I will watch, just like I will watch all of the other shows that are out there at this point. That that Twin Peaks, for example, that are on networks I can't get to at this point. So I'm sure that a lot of people are in my situation and in those kinds of situations and will eventually get to it. That's why I kind of disagree with you, Leonard, that there may very well be something on Twin Peaks at San Diego.
Fair enough.
It is David Lynch, and it is, this is the binging culture that we're in. So people can certainly go back and watch the first, 9 episodes of Twin Peaks. And it's not as though we don't know about it. We don't know the premise for what Twin Peaks is about because, well, most of us have lived through it. So, but looking for... Speaking for myself, that's all. That's all. So American Ninja Warrior, War Machine, and Twin Peaks are the highlights for this week. And looking forward to seeing what upfront shows are actually going to be at San Diego and will be good next year. So
Cool.
That's the takeaway from Week in Television.
Excellent stuff. So there we go. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this week. It's a slightly extended episode, but we did have a lot to talk about. And as we get closer to Comic-Con, I can imagine that is going to be the norm, especially when we do have we've got technically 3 guests on next week. We've got ourselves, first and foremost, we've got ourselves a representative of Traveling Stories who's going to be joining us. Traveling Stories, if you are following San Diego Comic-Con, you will have seen on every feed going, purely because they are running a sweepstake for Comic-Con this year, where you can win yourself, I believe it's internal flights in the US to Comic-Con, tickets to Comic-Con, badges to Comic-Con. You've got tickets to the fan party for Winona Earp. You've got a meet and greet with Kevin Eastman. It's a hell of a prize, but it's all in support of a fantastic effort to introduce literacy for children, which I thoroughly support. We're looking forward to speaking to her about the efforts of Traveling Stories. And then we're going to be joined by the manic minds behind Game of Thrones, the musical, who are going to be performing at San Diego Comic-Con this year, or certainly in one of the off-sites. Yeah, it's going to be a fun show. I think we've got some great guests. Do join us from 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. GMT next week. So where can people find you online, Alyssa?
At Friends of CCI is my Twitter, and friendsofcc.com.
Excellent stuff. You can find me on all sorts of platforms at Englishman SDCC, or you can go to an Englishman in San Diego or aeisd.com as a nice little shorthand, which will get you there as well, which I've signed myself up for. Also, you can find me on patreon.com as well. Starting tomorrow, we've got some live exclusive content that will be going up on the Patreon for Patreon supporters. So please head to patreon.com/EnglishmanSDCC. And that's us for this week. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Hope you've enjoyed it. Do join in with the unofficial blog with their show on Wednesday, and hopefully you'll come and join us as well for next Sunday, another Talkin Comic-Con, a cup of tea with Englishman in San Diego. Do take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And from all of us, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.